This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Sometimes justice requires a lot of patience and waiting. We're waiting on a lot of things. I'm going to focus this hot take on the Georgia election interference case and whether Judge McAfee is going to hold an evidentiary hearing on the 15th of February at all, or whether he's just on the briefs that have been filed trying to disqualify Fani T. Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, and her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, from the case and dismiss the indictment. He can do that on the papers. He doesn't even need to have a hearing, and he may likely do that based on some new reporting about an inquiry by email that the judge made directly to the lawyer for Mike Roman, Ashley Merchant, who brought the motion in the first place. It's a waiting game. What are we waiting on pins and needles and judgments and orders? We're waiting on the D.C. election interference case and the D.C. Court of Appeals 3-judge panel, likely led by Judge Pan, to issue their ruling already 3 weeks or so late, if you are impatient, on whether Donald Trump has immunity from prosecution as a indicted president who committed criminal conduct according to the indictment. We're waiting on that. We're waiting on Judge Ed Goron in the New York civil fraud case in the middle of February to issue his ruling as to whether Donald Trump is going to lose $500 million or more for persistent fraud in the operation of his business and in his records. We're waiting on the February 15th hearing with Judge Merchan in New York State Supreme Court to decide exactly when the Stormy Daniels hush money, cover-up, business record fraud, election interference fraud case, it's a mouthful, doesn't even fit on a bumper sticker, is going to start in New York. Is it going to start March 24th, or is it going to start sometime after, depending upon what happens in the D.C. election interference resetting of that trial date? We're waiting on Judge Chutkan to get back to setting the trial related to the D.C. Court of Appeals on that very same case of whether there's presidential immunity from prosecution, and maybe resetting it and canceling her, as she said today in another hearing, canceling her vacation in July in order to do that. We're waiting on Judge McAfee to set the trial in the Trump Georgia election interference case. He hasn't even set the trial date for that. We're waiting for Judge Cannon to decide anything that's substantive and moves the ball ahead in the Mar-a-Lago case in Florida. She's barely through rudimentary Classified Information Procedures Act motion practice and hearings that should have been done 3, 4, 6 months ago, as we move towards allegedly a May trial in her courtroom. But we're waiting on her to issue her rulings about pending motions that are going to be filed and setting those dates. So there's a lot of waiting. We're waiting on the United States Supreme Court to hold oral argument this week as to whether Donald Trump is an insurrectionist and engaged in rebellion under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and whether he should be banned and bashed, or sorry, I don't know where that came from. That's a Freudian slip. Banned from the ballot, a presidential ballot around the country in at least 30 states that are considering barring him under the 14th Amendment, Section 3. We're waiting on that. And we're waiting on the ultimate United States Supreme Court decision about presidential immunity and its application. We're waiting on Donald Trump to decide what to do next with the ruling and take the obvious, appeal that he'll be taking against the $83.5 million judgment by E. Jean Carroll. The jury returned a verdict for punitive damages almost 2 weeks ago for $83.5 million. He doesn't want to pay that. He wants to tie it up in appeals. So we're going to get an appeal related to that. So this is all the stuff we're waiting on. We wait very well at the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. But the question for this particular hot take, after that sort of summary of all the things that sometimes the wheels of justice move, but they move at their own pace that we're waiting on, let's focus on Fani Willis and the motion to disqualify her because she happens to be in a relationship with somebody that she hired to be the special prosecutor who is doing an admirable job in the case. There's nothing wrong with that indictment. It's airtight, issued by a grand jury on the backs of a special purpose grand jury. There's nothing wrong with Fani Willis sharing some after work time with somebody that she works with. How that implicates and undermines due process and constitutional rights for Donald Trump or Mike Roman or any of the other co-conspirators, who the heck knows? Now that Fani Willis has put it in writing, submitted her affidavits, and as she said, asking the judge to decline the invitation for a ticket to the circus, which is how she describes in her own way this attempt to drag her by her hair through the mud and undermine her credibility and her ethics in a way that I've never seen before. And I don't think if her name wasn't Fonnie T. Willis and she wasn't a black woman, I don't think we'd even be talking about it. And that's basically what she's told the judge in her own way by saying, we don't need more of a circus, judge. There's no there. There's no merits. There's no facts. There's no law. There's no evidence to support that I should be disqualified, Nathan Wade should be disqualified, or the indictment should be dismissed. There's nothing to see here, and there shouldn't be an evidentiary hearing. That got the attention of the judge. And I'm going to update my own reporting because when I first read and got my hands on the initial response by Mike Roman, I thought, look at this guy. Look at the temerity of this guy issuing himself his own briefing schedule and letting him have 2 briefs. And I said that on a hot take, and I said it on Legal AF. But now there's new reporting, and I sort of missed something. It wasn't on the docket, and I had note about it, which is the judge, having read Fonnie Willis's papers about the opposing the motion to disqualify, saw the section in there which Fonnie Willis invited the judge to not close the hearing, to dismiss the hearing, to cancel the hearing. Don't hold an evidentiary hearing. Don't take witnesses at all. Just read it on the briefs and on the affidavits and find there's nothing there. And they haven't carried their burden to even be entitled to discovery, to witnesses, or to this hearing. And the judge said, that got my attention. And he had his office send an email to Ashley Merchant, the lawyer for Mike Roman, and have her justify why there needed to be an evidentiary hearing. Now, of course, I did a hot take on the response, which was, you would never have known about the cohabitation of Nathan Wade and Fonnie T. Willis until we brought it to your attention. What does that have to do with anything? First of all, it's not a cohabitation to go to, as that term is used in the law, to go away for a long weekend on a holiday or on a cruise. Okay, it's temporary at best. Anybody that's dated knows that. I wouldn't call going away with your girlfriend on a 3-day weekend to the Poconos, cohabitation. Fonnie Willis single, Nathan Wade in the midst of a messy divorce that we all know more about than we care to. So it really just reinforced not a need for an evidentiary hearing because there's no disputed issues of fact. It really just comes down to whether, even as alleged in the papers by Mike Roman, taking every word of it in the light most favorable to him, which is generally the standard for motion practice, whether you need an evidentiary hearing at all. So we're going to wait. Scott McAfee's impressed us, the judge, so far because of his sober handling of his courtroom, his no-nonsense approach. He doesn't want a circus. He doesn't want to be the ringmaster for a circus, and he's let that be known before. Now, there's a little bit of blood in the water around Fonnie Willis because she did get disqualified for something about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, but by the then chief judge of the Fulton County Criminal Court, Judge McBurney, because he didn't like the fact that she supported politically in a fundraiser a opponent for somebody that she was prosecuting, who was part of the case as a fake elector. And he said, you know what, for that guy, Doug Jones, let's have another prosecutor handle that. And they said, there's been a time when Fonnie Willis on this case has been disqualified. Let's try it again. That's my artist rendering of people being, self-satisfied for no particular reason and having misplaced confidence. But we will follow what's going to happen. I mean, if I was a betting man, I'd like to see Judge McAfee do 2 things. One, I'd like to see him not hold the hearing on the 15th of February and find on the papers that Mike Roman and therefore Donald Trump by extension have not carried their burden, even in the light most favorable to the facts that they've alleged, to support the motion that they've done to attack the ethics of the prosecutor and seek the dismissal of the indictment. Therefore, there's no need for any discovery or witness testimony nor an evidentiary hearing, and cancel it. But the second thing in the same breath I'd like to do is have him hold a hearing to set an immediate trial in the case over the course of the summer. Because as I said on Legal AF, idle hands are the devil's playthings. And the more time we're giving these defendants to make mischief, they're doing it. Set the trial date, Judge McAfee. Get this thing, get people focused, right? get them focused under the shadow of the justice system and a hard trial date. And you will see that some of this will be tamped down, and we won't have to report on it on Legal AF every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the 2 million strong MeidasTouch YouTube network. Join us. We curate that podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. Legal AF. The name is exactly what you think. Wednesdays with Karen Friedman McNiffalo. Saturdays with me and Ben Meiselas. And then on hot takes like this about every hour by the leaders of Legal AF. If you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. Literally, a thumbs up here. Go back out, thumbs up, leave a comment. It really helps with the ratings and keeps everybody and me, Michael Popok, on the air. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.